Welcome to Dodgers Dawgs. I'm Casey Porter. Hey, we are back. We have a new co-host, and I'm super glad you decided to tune in. Chase, he gets so busy during this part of the year with his coaching in the spring, and then he actually owns his own academy called The Express, where he coaches a couple of teams. He's always out recruiting new players, so he is extremely busy. So I'm super excited to introduce you to our new host of this show. We're going to do it every Wednesday, 6 o'clock Pacific. That would be 8 o'clock my time, which is Central. That would be 9 o'clock your time, Austin. I know that gets kind of complicated, but Austin Brubaker, a young man who grew up different places, but anchored in Midland, Michigan, got to see Clayton Kershaw all the way back whenever Kershaw came through there, got to see some incredible early games whenever the Great Lakes Loons, I believe, Austin, they're 15 years old in Midland, got to see some really early games for them, fell in love with the Dodgers, has been a Dodgers fan ever since. So, Austin, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for having me, Casey. Extremely excited for this and excited to talk some Dodgers baseball.
No doubt about it. So first of all, got to give the whole rundown. I've never been to Midland, Michigan, never been to Dow Diamond. It looks like an awesome place. They do a great job with their music and just all the, in between innings and all their chants and all that. So tell us what a game day experience is like at Dow Diamond for the Great Lakes Loons.
Oh, the staff. First off, I have to mention the staff at Dow Diamond. Absolutely top class. Everybody within the organization is just phenomenal. From the people at the gates greeting you to the actual production staff putting on the show to the organization, people within the organization. Just a phenomenal place to watch a baseball game. Facility is really top notch too. It's been around since 2007, and it really has upheld too. They've done a lot of great work keeping up with it. They've added a new scoreboard, just added a lot of great stuff to the facility. It's a great place to watch the game. If you go there, especially when I'm at the games, can be a little bit, I try to bring up the energy of the crowd a little bit, try to bring some fun and excitement to the actual games, which the production staff, Eric, everybody up there does a great job with that. Just a great place to watch the baseball. And this year, the team that they have on the field is one of, if not the best team that they've ever had on the team on the field, which is really saying something for Great Lakes Loons team that has had so many great players come through it. Definitely some place that Dodgers fans and baseball fans need to check out.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, we already have a great audience, and we already had some great comments. Hey, good evening, Roy. Thank you so much for joining. Steph, thank you so much. We hope, hey, we're going to do this. I'm going to say it one more time in case you're just hopping on. Tell all your friends, tell all your baseball friends, Dodgers friends, every week, every Wednesday night, 6 o'clock Pacific, and then 8 o'clock Central, and then 9 o'clock Eastern. Austin Brubaker, our new host. Okay, the Domino says, hey, I know this guy. You've got a good host there in Austin. So, hey, how about that? I see you smiling right there. So we already have one big fan on board and in the chat room.
Yes, yeah, I know exactly who that is. Yeah, the Domino is what that would be.
Domino, okay.
Yes.
Now see, us here in Oklahoma and you guys up there in Michigan, we're saying the same word sometimes, but it comes out a little bit different, So that ought to be fun too, right? Okay, so tonight's show, we're going to talk all about, hey, we've this year for the Dodgers, it's been different because it just, I've said on many of my daily podcasts, it's like that whack-a-mole, you feel like you solve something over here and then that mole pops up. It's like you're always behind that mole trying to whack him whichever hole he comes out. Last night he was the most unexpected as you could possibly have with Evan Phillips giving up the lead. Of course, it was his third outing in a row. First of all, before we get into the trade targets, good evening, Turtle Power. Thank you so much for joining. And yeah, woo, I woo back to you too because we're very excited. Hey, what do you think about using Evan Phillips third day in a row? I know the Dodgers did that with Kenley Jansen. I looked it up. It was about 3 times in the last 3 or 4 years. He was with the Dodgers, and all 3 times Kenley Jansen had 0 issues on that third day. So, and Evan Phillips only had 30 pitches going into last night in the last 2 days on Monday and Tuesday. So, what do you think?
Yeah, if you think that Evan Phillips was going to give you the best chance to win, especially in that closer situation, which he has been solid in, you got to throw him out there. And last night he didn't have the outing that you wanted. 3 days in a row, I don't know the exact numbers of how he has performed in the past.
He's never done it.
Never done it before.
No.
Then in that point, and I don't know who else was available for the Dodgers bullpen who was ready to go that you'd rather give the baseball to. He just didn't perform last night, and it's as simple as that. And it sucks, especially after Johnny DeLuca came up with the
bad,
torch,
didn't it? God,
which, yeah, that was an amazing moment. And then you kind of had that deflating loss after that. It was really disappointing, but it is what it is, and we got to move on.
You got to see Johnny DeLuca grow up right in front of your eyes, because if you remember about this time last year, maybe a little bit more than this time last year, he was hitting about $130 at Great Lakes. Now, he was making great swing decisions. I talked to Dylan Ashotka, who was the hitting coach for the Loons at that time, and he said he's making great swing decisions, putting the ball in play well, kind of like Jason Hayward was early on in this season, but just didn't have a whole lot to show for it. But then I'll be darned, man, right after about this time of year, when the Loons went on that big run and won the first half division, Johnny DeLuca went on an absolute tear, got called up to Double-A. You got to see that all with your own eyes, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And you can tell there's some things that just looking at the box score, just looking at the stat sheet, you don't get to see. And one of the things you don't get to see is the quality of contact, especially on the minor league level, because you don't have that information widely available. And you could tell with his plate appearances that he was putting a lot of balls in play with really solid contact, just not getting the exact results early in the season. But you could also tell his plate approach was really, really solid, which is something that he has had throughout his entire career. And he was able to hit for power at times. But
led the Loons in both home runs and stolen bases when he got promoted to Double-A.
He's a special talent. He really is. And you can tell that. Just wish that he'd had the opportunity to get to more opportunities at the big league level to show what he is capable of, which I think at some point he should have that opportunity with Dodgers kind of struggling a little bit right now.
You think this year, every day?
I don't think every day this year, no.
Yeah, right. I'm with you. Coming into last night, he was 2 for his last 5, but those 5 at bats were strung out over 7 games. So, to be able to stay in tune at the major league level, especially not, only having a limited amount of major league at bats, to stay in tune, only having 5 at bats over 7 games, and to come in and pinch hit and get a home run like that. I mean, I don't think people understand the difficulty level of what he did last night. That was a special moment. I mean, not Kirk Gibson-esque or anything like that, but it was a pretty awesome moment, right?
Oh, it was phenomenal. It was really great to see. You were rooting for that guy. Really awesome moment.
Yep. Okay, so let's get into some trade talks. I'm going to turn this over to you. First of all, before we get into names, okay, what positions? What are the positions I need? Hey, if you're in the chat, we have a great crowd already. Tell us, who do you want the Dodgers to go get at the trade deadline? I've said many different times on Dodgers Daily, the prospect capital. I'm a prospect hugger, you too as well, Austin, but only to the sense that we want to see each one of these guys have the cleanest path to the longest career at the major league level. So I have zero problems trading these guys away. It's like a Ryan Noda or Gus Varlin who went Rule 5, Jose Hernandez, somebody like that, or even Guillermo Zuniga, who was picked up in free agency. Hey, so if these guys have a clearer path somewhere else, that's what I want for them. So I think the Dodgers, if they find the right guy, I think they'll trade away prospect capital, because I think a lot of it is at its highest peak right now. Just don't quite know who it is, and it got a lot more complicated with the expanded playoffs, because now it's not quite as unclear who the buyer or sellers are going to be. So dive into that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We are huge fans of these players and of the organization, and so we want both what is best for the organization and what is best for the players too. In this season, it's pretty obvious what the Dodgers need, at least off the start. They need help with pitching. You look statistically.
Starting or bullpen? Where would you start?
Both.
Okay. Okay.
I think both need areas They both have areas of need. Obviously, starting pitching, you've been dealing with a lot of injuries. Bullpen has been a struggle at times, and has been a point of frustration for a lot of
Can you
Dodgers
solve
fans.
the bullpen issues by solving the starting rotation first and then bumping some of your fringe starters down to the bullpen?
I think that is an option. And I think you have some guys coming off the injured list as well who should be coming up at some point. So you have to take that into consideration as well as far as the guys coming up who from the injured list filling some holes, but then you also don't know who's going to be injured in the future. It really is a incredibly tough hurdle to jump over, especially with, as you mentioned, the expanded playoffs. There's not a ton of sellers or obvious sellers.
Not obvious sellers, yeah.
Yes. At this point, it is tough to tell who is going to be buyers, who's going to be sellers, and who is going to be available. And so I think what a lot of Dodgers fans are expecting is they're expecting, okay, we want to pick up this ace starting pitcher. I don't know if that's going to be available this trade deadline. Just because
the guy that the Dodgers fans have fallen in love with, in my opinion, has been Lucasgiolito, and that's because he's a SoCal guy. I think they saw his interview on what was an ESPN, I think it was a Sunday night game, and he talked about eating Dodgers dogs, going to Dodgers games as a kid. I think that's the number one target. If you asked a lot of Dodgers fans, would that be your number one target?
That would be right up at the top of the list. Yeah. Pitcher from the White Sox, and they're entering his final year of arbitration, which means he's not going to cost a whole lot as far as giving up years, just because he's going to be a free agent pretty soon. Definitely a pitcher that Dodgers fans should be looking at as a real potential option for this team. I think he has one of the higher upsides that should be available as far as being a pitcher that can start a playoff game for you and be a real good anchor to the rotation. I think he's right up there towards the top of the list, and somebody that I would definitely keep in mind as far as targeting at the trade deadline.
Lucasgiolito, 4-pitch pitcher, 4-seam fastball, slider, change in curve, and that fastball's 93-ish range. You know who that is to me?
Who's that?
That is a major league version of Landon Knack. That's the exact pitcher that Landon Knack is. So the question is, here's the sliding scale that you get into. Okay, let me give you just kind of an example. You know, I coached high school forever. Let's say that you had a transfer that came in a senior year at high school, right? And you have a freshman, okay? And they both have very similar skills, and you're going to have the freshman for 4 more years. You haven't invested anything into the transfer because he hasn't even been there till his senior year. Now you have this senior that's a transfer and a freshman. You're going to have 3 more years, and they're basically the exact same pitcher. Who do you go with?
Yeah, that's a good question. As far as the system development versus the guy from the outside, I think the real question with this and the question with Giolito is, in a playoff series, who would you rather start, Giolito or Landon Knack?
That's okay. So that's the sliding scale. Mm-hmm. Do you think Giolito is going to be that much better in a playoff setting because he has more major league experience than a guy like Landon Knack was? See, one of my first experiences was I saw Corey Seager all of the year 2015, and then he came up in the playoffs that year and just absolutely dominated. So there are times to where I'm not afraid of saying, sometimes these young guys, of course, they're not young anymore. When we think of prospects, we tend to think like they're 17, 18, 19 years old. These guys went to college. They've been in the minor leagues. Man, they're 25 years old. They're in Michael Busch's case, they're closer to 30 than they are 20. So it's not like they're young guys. They're young and inexperienced. So I don't know. That's a sliding scale for me. What type of pitcher makes it worth it to take innings away from your future? That's a sliding scale that it's always moving, obviously. But hey, leave us your comments. We have some great comments already. Craig says, how about Bieber? What do you think about Bieber?
So that's somebody that I had on my list. It's going to be tough to tell if he's even going to be an option because Cleveland is competing for a playoff spot in an extremely weak American League Central. I think they're around 500, maybe a little bit below there, but they're only a game back. The question is, would he even be an option? Or would you have to give up a lot of those high-end either minor league or young pitchers or position players in order to get him? I truly don't know if he'd be available at the deadline.
Would you give up Cartaya with all the catching depth? That's a pretty big question for your first show, and
that is a big question. I mean, it has to be for the be for the right pitcher. It has to be for the right pitcher because I was able to see last year at Great Lakes just how good Cartaya can be. Yeah. And he can be special. He can
overpower professionals.
Yes.
The Damino says he watched Johnny DeLuca launch baseballs into L.A. as a loon. What into L.A.? Is that what is the L.A.?
Probably Los Angeles. Probably saying that he hit it.
As
he
a
hit
loon?
It from Midland to Los Angeles.
Gotcha. And to see him play really well at the major league level so far is pretty awesome to see. Couldn't agree more. He is an awesome young man. I've had a chance to talk to him on 2 different occasions. Craig also says that he thinks that the Dodgers need starting rotation help. And he also says, hey, bring up one of the Double-A guys. Nick Frasso's had 3 rough outings in a row, I know, but River Ryan, Kyle Hurt. I'm going to miss somebody, so I'm going to stop right there. But help me out there, Austin. Who else am I missing? Nick Frasso. Of course, Landon Atkins got called. Nastrini, yes. Nick Nastrini, Kyle Hurt. Of course, I always lump Nastrini and Hurt together because they're both SoCal boys. One went to UCLA, one went to USC, and they kind of have similar stuff. So, yeah, hey, bring up one of the Double-A guys like you did Emmett Sheehan, who had a little bit rough start last night, but that wouldn't be a bad idea either. The Damino also says, I'm surprised the Dodgers didn't try trading for Chapman. Okay. And then Craig says Chapman had domestic issues. I'm not real familiar with that. Are you, Austin?
Aroldis Chapman is probably what they're referring to. I don't know exactly all of the issues, but got traded to Texas. He's off the board.
Yep. Oscar Vargas, thank you so much for joining, Oscar. His question is Knack ready for a call-up this year? I'm of the opinion, yes. He has 5 pitches. He's a strike thrower. He's a guy who can throw a strike at every pitch. I've seen him so many different times, and I know you have too, Austin. He'll get down 2-0 in a count and flip a curveball in, throw a slider, and then throw a changeup 3 pitches later. He has an out. Yep. So it doesn't matter if he's ahead in the count. Doesn't matter if he's behind the count. He can reach into any one of his 5 pitches in his bag and throw them in any spot that he wants. He's very, very seasoned in terms of his experience. You know, he had that JUCO experience at Walter State, which is very pressurized because it's so results-based in JUCO. Either you produce or you don't play in JUCO, especially at a place like Walter State. You know, and he was wonderful at East Tennessee, so he has great experience. I think if you threw Landon Knack up there, he'd handle it perfectly, and I think he has the right type of mix, and he's the right type of pitcher that could be effective at the major league level right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I haven't seen Landon Knack pitch enough this year to see how he's progressed, but that wouldn't shock me at all from what I saw in Great Lakes.
Yeah, so Fernando asked why they bring up Knack instead of Stone, because that was a simple one, because Stone's still on the 40-man. Landon Knack is not, so if you would have brought up Landon Knack, you would have had to DFA somebody, and they weren't in the mood, obviously, to DFA anybody that's currently on their 40-man roster. So, you know, that was the advantage Michael Grove, and I talked to him about this. When Michael Grove and James Outman got put on the 40-man ahead of last year, the big deal with that was, hey, they're going to get all the first shots and they keep, you know, the recalls, because then you don't have to DFA a guy. So would you agree that's probably why that happened?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you got to take advantage of the players who are on your 40-man roster. And if you remove them from the 40-man roster, you risk losing them. And with how much talent the Dodgers currently have, they don't want to just remove guys from the 40-man roster. They want to utilize the talent that they have. And when they feel like somebody else is better, they'll move on.
Craig is reading our minds, Austin. We were getting ready to go here next. He said, how about marcusstroman? Best one out there probably, isn't he?
He is right up there as far as the most successful starting pitcher that is going to be on the market. pitching for Chicago.
2.76 ERA this year, whip of just 109. He has 92 strikeouts this year. Not a whole lot of strikeouts, just 92 strikeouts, 107.2, but very effective with his whip and ERA.
Oh, yeah, just phenomenal. He's had just a great season for Chicago. Really, really good pitcher. If you look at a little bit more of an advanced stats, if you look at ERA plus, just a stat that just tries to normalize ERA in comparison to the rest of the league, he has an ERA plus of 161, meaning he's 61% better. His ERA is 61% better than
so
the
when you
league
see
average.
WRC plus, OPS plus, ERA plus, the baseline is 100. So anything above that is above average. Anything below that is below average.
Yes.
Just to make that as simple as you can make it.
Yes, and he is well above average as far as his production, as far as his ERA is. His StatCast, if you look at StatCast, which is a little bit more advanced, if you look at some of the percentiles.
Looking at it right now.
Yeah, it's not phenomenal as far as just looking at the percentiles, but you want results. And if you want results, Marcusstroman has produced results. He is going to be most likely available depending on if the Cubs kind of fade out of the National League Central, which isn't a given how that division is not as strong as some of the other ones, although Cincinnati's kind of running with that division a little bit, along with Milwaukee. Really, really talented pitcher. I think the Dodgers should at least take a strong look at.
91, 92, so he's not the power arm. You know, the Dodgers like to bring in guys like Ryan Brazier, even if they haven't had success, that throw the 96, 97, have the left-turning sliders, the right-turning either two-seam or change-ups. He's not necessarily that guy. He's not the high velo power arm guy. He's a six-pitch guy that you know, he's kind of the Yu Darvish type of pitcher, to where you just you really never know what's coming. So I would be interesting to see how the Dodgers would work with a pitcher with such a big bag of pitches that they've never worked with before. That would be an interesting, you know, that's not their style of pitcher in terms of, you know, riding four-seam fastballs at the top, left-turning sliders, and tumbling changeups.
Yeah, no, it'd be interesting to see what Mark Breyer and the rest of the pitching lab is able to do with that and able to utilize. But I think with the staff that the Dodgers have, with the pitching minds that they have, they'd be able to utilize his talents in a pretty effective way. And I think he would provide a lot of innings, too, for the Dodgers, which is something that they need right now with a lot of the injuries to some of their starters.
Okay, got a question from Fernando. I'm going to turn this one over to you. Is Corbin Burns still an option? They've been talking about trading for him since the beginning of the season.
If you're looking for an ace-level pitcher, he would probably be the guy that you would look for. The question is Milwaukee willing to trade him away?
They said no. Do you believe that?
In contention? And I don't believe that they are going to do that right now.
They said no. Do you believe them?
I believe them, yes.
Okay. Really?
Yes.
See, I took that as posturing to, you know, I'm not saying they are going to get rid of him and or Willy Adames, but I saw that as posturing to where, hey, if we do, then that gives us more leverage.
I think they're holding out for more leverage. I don't think they're going to pull the trigger, though.
Yeah.
I think they're going to wait until the offseason.
Man, those kind of guys don't just fall off of trees. I mean, you don't just give those guys away when you have a pretty good nucleus of players around them, right? I mean, especially if you're Milwaukee and you don't just go out and on the free agency market and replace every year, right?
No, they don't do that, but they have a pretty good development too. And I also wonder if they are actually going to trade away Corbin Burns. He's got an ERA of 4 so far this season. I wonder if they see his value as being higher during the offseason as opposed to in season.
That makes sense.
Even with a year and a half, I don't know the answer to that. They're also only a game out. They're very much in contention as far as the National League Central is concerned. I don't believe he would be available. If he was, though, and you're looking for a starting pitcher that can be an ace-level starting pitcher for the Dodgers, he would be the guy to target.
Good evening, Sean. Thank you so much for joining. Austin, I know you follow Dodgers daily quite a bit. You know how great of comments that Sean leaves. And then also Oscar and Fernando, the Damon. I'm telling you, man, we don't have a huge crowd like if you go to Dodgers Nation or even Dodger Blue like that. They have a lot more crowd. Dodgers Daily hadn't been around as long, but the fans that we do have that here at Dodgers Daily, I will put them up against any other baseball, not just Dodgers wise, any other baseball site on earth. The comments are always just ridiculous. Of course, I stole one of them, and now he's my co-host with Austin. You can tell why I stole him right here. Awesome co-host so far. Okay, and our fans are absolutely reading your minds, because I know the next guy that you were going to get to was Jordan Montgomery, and that's because the Cardinals are probably going to be sellers because they have had a terrible year.
Yeah, no, they've been absolutely terrible this season. Just a really frustrating season from them. One guy who's not been frustrating, though, has been Jordan Montgomery. And one of the things that he can provide that'd be especially valuable for the Dodgers is just innings. Being able to pitch quality innings. I believe he has a 3.28, something like that ERA, but something that I remember.
3.28, yeah, and his WHIP is 1.24, so his walks per hit per innings aren't very good, but he's been able to work around traffic.
Mm-hmm. He's been able to work around traffic, and he's been able to be consistent. Big thing is with the innings that he's been able to provide, which is something that Dodgers down the stretch are probably going to need, whether you're going to bring up some young guys, in which case you're going to have to shift around some of the 40-man roster, or if you're going to bring some guys from the outside that you know can pitch solid big league innings. Jordan Montgomery would be one of those options that you can provide and can potentially start if you need him to a game 4-ish of a playoff series.
Are you in favor of course, Montgomery's left-handed, and the Dodgers don't have a left-handed sinker ball pitcher, predominantly sinker ball pitcher. Urias is more of the sweeper, and then Kershaw is more of the slider. So that sinker guy would be unique to what the Dodgers don't have right now. So he would add, not only would he add major league experience, a quality major league experience, he would also add something to the arsenal of the staff that the club doesn't have, which is a left-handed sinker.
Oh, yeah. No, I think changing up the looks, making it as difficult as possible for hitters to prepare, not just preparing for one type of pitcher with a couple of different arms, but providing a bunch of different options for them would be extremely valuable for that. No, I think Jordan Montgomery could be a really positive addition to the Dodgers if they move that route towards acquiring him.
Okay, I'm going to answer this one because I've seen Michael Grove pitch quite a bit. Fernando, this is a wonderful question. Will Michael Grove be better in the pen? My answer to that is absolutely 100%, completely, totally, and entirely yes. And here's why. He's a three-pitch guy, which a three-pitch guy, although he can reach 98, that's tough to get through a lineup more than about 2 times. So you're looking at a guy as a starter that, at least for this year, 4, maybe 5 innings, probably not ever 6 unless it just goes great. And typically speaking, Michael Grove, what he's going to have to do is work the perimeters and the edges of the strike zone, because he's been shell shocked so bad with he's had bad luck, and we'll see if you agree with this, Austin, in the sense that he's pitched really great at times, but it just seems like every single mistake he's ever made has been hit out of the ballpark. So if you're standing there in your Michael Grove, you got to be thinking, every time I throw the ball over the plate, it gets hit. So I have to work the perimeters, and to do that, you're going to have higher pitch counts. And so I don't see him being a huge innings eater, even on nights that he shuts the other team down. But I could see him go 2 innings, not worry about pitch count at all, work the perimeters of the strike zone, use the 98-mile-an-hour fastball, the good slider, and the good curveball, and get a lot of outs in that role.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think you can utilize him in shorter stints. And to go to your point about him being a little bit unlucky, he does have a high BABIP, meaning a lot of the balls that are hit and play are landing, which is in part due to
BABIP is batting average on balls in play. Yes,
batting average on balls in play.
So when the other team actually hits the ball and it's fair, what is the batting average on those balls? That would be correct?
That would be correct, yes. Just going over the kind of the terminology. And he's also giving up a little bit more home runs than what league average is, which you hopefully would expect that to correct itself. Perhaps in shorter stints, I think he could be really positive. He's great talent.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of potential, and you've seen a lot of good stuff from him in the past. I think we can see that in the future too.
This is just my narrative, and I could be wrong. I think he needs to carry himself with a little bit more confidence. He needs to act like a little bit more of a dog. It seems like sometimes he's throwing the ball hoping instead of throwing the ball, with conviction. Do you see that at all, or is that just me making that up?
I believe that. Yeah, I could see that.
Hey, we have another great comment. An absolutely incredible co-host to have. He knows his statistics. You're knocking it out of the park, Austin. Yeah, man. Having a good time?
Oh, I love this. Absolutely love talking baseball.
So what's going to happen is I don't have the professional version of Zoom yet. Of course, Dodgers Daily is still small. I do have a GoFundMe that's raised right around $800, so I've lost quite a bit of money actually trying to do this. So I don't have the professional version yet. So here in about 2 or 3 minutes, Austin and I are going to reconnect. Do you have time to reconnect and come back for another session?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so there may be a minute or two where we have some downtime. We hope you stick with us and come back after the break of that. Let's get into another one. Okay, so here's another one. Sean says, Mr. Brubaker knows his baseball. I would love to see Jordan Montgomery in Dodger blue if we can't land Giolito. Okay, here's the Domino. As a Tigers fan by birth, and I know you're a Tigers fan too, Austin, as a Tiger fan by birth, it pains me to say this, that do you think Eduardo Rodriguez, these people are reading our minds because Eduardo Rodriguez literally was the next guy that we were going to go to. Do you think he could be available?
Yes, he will be available. Whether the Dodgers pull the trigger on him will depend on whether they believe in the health of Eduardo Rodriguez. He just came back today from injury, didn't have a great start against Oakland, which is worrisome. But if you look at his starts back in April, back in May, he was extremely dominant.
Whip of 1.00 ERA of 264, 74 more strikeouts than innings pitched. Been good.
He's been really good. And he's one of those pitchers who will get a lot of called third strikes too. Not one of those super flashy guys that you would kind of think of, but extremely dominant at stretches, at points and stretches. And I think he will definitely be available. He's got an opt-out that he likely will utilize at the end of the season. Tigers are not in a position to compete. They're looking to gather more talent. Yeah. This is one of the arms that, if you believe in what he was before he was injured, you could pull the trigger on, and he could really surprise a lot of people.
What exactly was the injury?
It was some weird injury. It left index finger. I believe it was
so nothing. Okay, not a shoulder or something like that.
No, and I think it was a super rare injury that they said only happens to like rock climbers. I don't know exactly what happened. That's kind of the luck that the Tigers have been in for the past 5 or 6 seasons. Just injury after injury and terrible baseball. But Eduardo Rodriguez, very good pitcher, somebody the Dodgers could consider at the deadline.
Hey, we're going to take a break. We only have 2 minutes until our time is up here. We're going to reconnect with Austin, so stick around. Give us about 2 minutes to reconnect. Please don't leave us. Come back. We're going to talk some more trade targets right after the break. All right, we're back. That didn't take long. Okay,
No, it didn't.
let me get back on my screen here and see if we still have all of our crowd going and see where we're at there. Okay, looks like we actually added, so that's very good. So, hey, we're still rocking and rolling. Again, Casey Porter here, live Dodgers Dogs. We are back. This is going to be every Wednesday night, 6 o'clock Pacific, 8 o'clock Central, which is my time, 9 o'clock Eastern, which is Austin's time. If that's not complicated enough for you, just leave me a question, and maybe I can write it down, and we can make sense for it there. So, hey, Austin Brubaker, give him a follow at AustinBrew99. That's at capital A, AUSTIN, and then capital B, BRU99, at AUSTIN, BRU99, at AustinBrew99. So, Austin Brubaker, a wonderful, wonderful addition to Dodgers Daily, just the whole umbrella, a wonderful addition to Dodgers Dogs, having a great time talking trade prospects. So, hey, where do we want to go next?
I want to hit up one more starting pitcher that kind of came to mind and actually kind of surprised me when I was going through doing a little bit of research for this, and that's left-handed pitcher James Paxton.
Yep, hard thrower.
Very hard thrower, somebody who has been injured for a little bit. But if you look at especially his StatCast data, it has been incredible this season. He's pitched, I believe, a 2.7 ERA so far, generating a lot of whips, not throwing a lot of walks. Could be a valuable addition, whether they use him in rotation, whether they use him maybe perhaps more in the pen, whatever role they kind of see. Dodgers kind of like a lot of those guys who generate a lot of swings and misses, and James Paxton.
61 Ks, 50 and 50 innings.
Yes, and he could be one of those guys that you wouldn't think of at first as being a trade target for the Dodgers. I think he could be somebody that could be incredibly valuable to a team at the deadline. Only has 1 year left on his deal. Just signed a cheap deal with Boston, so he's not going to cost an arm and a leg in order to get a really sneaky addition that could be really valuable in the end.
Well, and he has a lot of strikeouts, and he has a low whip, which I like the whip because, hey, it's one thing to get a lot of swing and miss, but if you're throwing 47 pitches an inning, because you're not throwing strikes either, and you're not efficient, then we saw that with Ryan Pepio. A lot of swing and miss, but not efficient enough, although the overall ERA actually turned out very well. His whip is lower than 1, which is really, really good. So, not only does he have a lot of swing and miss, a lot of strikeouts, he also has been very efficient. And, hey, he is that typical type of pitcher that's in the Dodgers mold. The four-seam that is, 96 from the left side. So he has the big four-seam that's in the 96 range. Then the cutter, slider, whatever you call it, curveball, changeup. That's the exact mix the Dodgers would go seek. This is the guy right here. If he's available, this is the guy I would go after the hardest, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he, given that the American League East is incredibly competitive, and the Red Sox seem to be towards the back of that, and because he's on a short-term deal, I think he's going to be absolutely available, and I think he fits perhaps best with the Dodgers mold of pitchers that they would try to target, and I think they can utilize his skills extremely well.
I think Montgomery is a great option from the simple fact that he gives you something you don't already have, but I think Paxton is the most plug and play in the sense that it's just going to all gel from the time that he steps onto your facilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, Sean says Paxton, good call. I think Los Angeles, Boston could match up on a couple of players. I don't have any doubt about it. I think, hey, we saw Kike Hernandez, Alex Verdugo, Justin Turner, Kenley Jansen. There's a prior relationship there. It's on good terms. You're not competing against each other until the World Series, So, hey, you want both sides to have a good deal out of it. And both sides, obviously, they need players that can handle big environments. So that's a great trade partner for me.
Yeah, 100%.
Red Sox are 5 games out of the wild card. So, boy, tough.
I know.
Okay.
It is.
We need the Red Sox to lose like 11 games in a row. That's what
I have no issues with that.
But we want JT to hit like 400 through the whole time, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
and Verdugo. Did you get a chance to see Verdugo at Great Lakes?
I did not. At least not that I remember. No, I know he came up. I believe it was during the time where I was only able to catch maybe 1 or 2 Loons games a year. And so I don't remember watching Verdugo a whole lot.
Okay, so we're about to wrap this up. We're going to talk a little bit more about this next week, and I may clean some of this up on some of my daily shows, and I hope you tune into those. That show has been growing steadily, so I appreciate all that, and I appreciate all the help, Austin, you've given, with all of your videos and with everything that you've helped with so far. Hey, we're going to talk for about a couple more minutes. We're wrapping things up. If you have any more questions or any more thoughts, now is the time to leave your thoughts and leave your questions in the chat. It's been a wonderful chat, a wonderful crowd tonight. So, Austin, what are some of your final thoughts here?
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of options for the Dodgers. I think they do need some help, whether that is from internal, whether that is from trade possibilities. Dodgers have a lot of talent, and they can utilize their talent to get exactly what they need. It's about figuring out who is going to be available at the deadline and making the smartest move for the organization, which I have no doubt within the upper echelon of the Dodgers organization that they will make smart decisions, that they will make decisions that are best not just for this season, but also for the future health of this organization as well.
Oscar is bringing his A game tonight. He says odds of trading Ohtani, let me back that up. Yeah. Odds of acquiring Ohtani via trade. Of course, we know he's going to be a free agent, so you could get him for no prospects if you waited till the end of the year. What do you think? Trade?
They have. Here's the thing: is they have the prospect capital where they could entice a trade.
They could get them, but do they have enough depth to replace the guys that have to give up? Do they have that much prospect capital?
I believe in the talent of this organization. I believe in a lot of these guys where I believe they could. A couple questions that I would have, though. One, would the Angels even be willing to trade Ohtani? I think that is the giant question.
Are they going to re-sign him?
I don't know if they're going to re-sign him, but are they going to be trying to compete at all? They are right in the thick of things in the wild card. I don't know if they're going to be trying to compete, or I don't know if they're going to be trying to trade him at all. Also, another question that we have.
I think they would. I think they would for a Diego Cartaya. I mean, it's going to take like a Cartaya, Gavin Stone, River. I mean, it's going to take like 4 of your top 10 prospects to get them.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. And then the question is, how do you play both Shohei and JD Martinez in the lineup? Both of them are likely designated hitter type options.
Good point.
If you have both of those players, you're going to have to play one of them in the field, in which case you're having a little bit of an issue with that. Now, you have Shohei Ohtani at that point. You kind of have to be willing to do that. But are you?
Of course, he pitches too, so I mean that solves one of your issues there.
That does solve one of your issues. I think there's a lot of potential complications that have to do with that. But if you think that that is going to give you the best chance to sign him potentially in the offseason too, you kind of have to be certain if you want to give up all those guys, hey, we're not just going to get Shohei for this offseason. We're going to be getting him for years to come. We're going to have the best player in baseball on our team as well. You have to know that ahead of time. You have to have a plan for a role to get him in the lineup every day and to position yourself to win as many games as possible and to win the World Series.
So the Domino says put JD in the bullpen. So what you're telling me is you're going to have either Ohtani or JD next year, not both.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Hey, hot take right there. Austin Brubaker with the hot take. It's going to be either JD or Shohei Ohtani, not both of them next year. Craig says the Angels owners hate the Dodgers.
Yeah. Well,
so,
they
maybe not the best trade partner, right?
Yeah, it might not be the best trade partner. They're probably not very happy about missing out on Andy Pages when they could have gotten him. But we will see what happens. He should be available as a free agent option this offseason, and if rumors are true, Dodgers are going to go full out for him.
Yeah, Trout's out, man. He's out for the year.
Yeah.
I see him being sellers, but it's like Craig said, hey, are they going to be sellers to their crosstown rivals?
Yeah.
I mean, that's especially after the Andy Paez deal and all that. That's the question. Of course, you got to put your pride aside, and you got to do what the best business deal is, and you would get the best return from the Dodgers for Ohtani, my opinion.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So from that perspective, hey, it's a possibility.
It is a possibility, and he would add to the offense, and he would be that ace to the starting staff that we're kind of looking for.
Let me say this too: if he came over and he won a World Series with Ohtani this year, it would also take some pressure off of next year, to where even if you didn't re-sign him, you could more easily incorporate the River Ryans and all those guys, knowing you have the World Championship to calm all your fans down in your back pocket.
Yeah,
does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. If you feel like Shohei Ohtani, if you feel like giving up those prospects, giving up those guys that are going to anchor the future, is going to give you the best chance to win the World Series this year, you pull the trigger 100%.
Yep.
And especially
go ahead. Sorry.
And especially with the multitude of talent the Dodgers have in their system, they have to find roles for these guys in the future, which we're already seeing them struggle to find roles for a lot of the rookies. We talked about Johnny DeLuca earlier, having a tough time finding
Michael Busch.
Michael Busch, absolutely. Do you even have roles for these guys in the future? Are they just going to be sitting down in AAA, where it'd be best utilized to trade for a superstar like Ohtani, give them an opportunity to succeed elsewhere, and also give yourself the best chance to win the World Series?
Sean says Ohtani pitches every 6 days, so LA would still need 5 other starters or 4 and a long man. No doubt about it. Elias, and then Kershaw, Gonsolin, that would be 3 of them. So that would be, and then your 5th one would be probably either Bobby Miller and or Emmett Sheehan, and or if you went and got an innings eater. One of the innings eaters that we talked about earlier. I don't think Michael Grove would be, a penciled in scheduled starter for the rest of this year. I think he's going to be a swing man. He's going to pitch some relief. He's going to pitch in the bullpen games. And then if you need a spot start, he would be that guy. Do you think that's his role?
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
And then you also have Pepio that might come back, so that's another option.
There'll be guys coming off the injured list who will help reinforce this team too.
Yep. Anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
Loons won tonight 4-2. I had the game on the TV. If you saw me looking out to the side, that was me looking up.
I big games.
Chris Newell hit a home run.
He's big time.
Tonight. Yeah, no, and struggled a little bit recently, but he's showing some really good swings here in Dayton. Really good to see. And from what I saw earlier, Orlando Ortiz had a really good start for Tulsa today, at least through 5 innings. Just got called up from Great Lakes. Really cool to see. And one other shout out, not in the Dodgers organization anymore. Sent you this morning. Alex DeJesus.
The cycle, baby.
He hit for the cycle again. I got to see that actually in person last year for Great Lakes.
Yeah.
He hit one.
Oh, I forgot he did hit for the cycle last year for Great Lakes, didn't he?
He did.
He sure did.
It was against Wisconsin when they were on that playoff rush. It was middle of June, and we were there. And what was hilarious about that, because big baseball fans, all of us that we were going with, and we kind of knew going into that last at bat, like he's a single away from the cycle, and so we all stood up, and then he got the base hit. We all started cheering. Nobody else kind of realized that he had just hit for the cycle, except for us, the teammates. And then we went up and saw Brad was super pumped, play-by-play announcer for the Loons. But he just hit for the cycle again for the Vancouver Canadians, high affiliate of the Toronto Blue Jays. We're big fans of these players, both while they're in the Dodgers organization and when they move outside the Dodgers organization. So
I communicated with Luke Raley just the other day.
So just wanted to give a shout out to Alex DeJesus, still hitting for the cycles even outside the Dodgers organization.
Hey, wanted to ask you this. We have not rehearsed this or talked about this guy, so I have no. And hey, if you say I have no idea, go ahead and say that. That's fine too. Mike Montgomery, lots of major league experience. He's at AAA Oklahoma City right now. Is he a player at all?
I don't know exactly. I have not had a ton of time to look at him, so I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, he's kind of one of those AAA, major guys with major, like the Dylan Covey type guy, that you could send up maybe DFA, see if he pitches well, maybe stick on, who knows.
Yeah.
But I was curious what your thoughts were on that. Thought I'd throw that out there and see. Maybe that's something we can talk about next week. The guys that are in AAA that have major league experience, like Matt Andrees, Robbie Erlin, Mike Montgomery. Talk about those guys next week. But hey, that's going to do it for tonight. It has been a wonderful show. It's been a wonderful crowd. Way better than I thought it would be. Our first time back for Dodgers Dawgs. Again, just a reminder, this is going to be every Wednesday. That's 6 o'clock Pacific. Hopefully that's right before the Dodgers play. So this can kind of be your pregame show going into the Dodgers on Wednesday nights. That's 8 o'clock Central Time, and then 9 o'clock, which is in Eastern Time, which is Austin's time. So, hey, until next week, until we say hi to you for Dodgers Dawgs on the next episode, we would like to thank you for tuning in and say, go Dodgers.